if you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Grand Rising, good morning, how are you? Welcome to the April the 13th edition of the Counter-Racist Code Show, also called the CRCS. Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., and I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. Again, good morning. Contact numbers if you would like to join the conversation, 516-453-9921. And when you call that number, be sure to press the number 1 button if you want to make a comment, PGQ, or if you want to ask Mr. Fuller a question. Make sure that you do that. You can also Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com. And we will see what we can do about reading your Gmail. And you can also get on the chat room. And brother's in there right now. I always get ready to mess up his name, but Brother Swallow's in there right now. So we thank you and grand rising to everyone. Okay, let's start off by saying good morning, Mr. Fuller, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
Okay, you're still learning. Mr. Fuller, recently there's been a lot of things in the news. Has there been anything in particular that got your attention that you're still learning about, that you would like to share with the radio audience?
At this point, nothing different. I'm still in the process of learning, but if you go according to the events that have been transpiring, I think you're talking about the recent events of the news, it's just staying the course of what you can expect to be happening according to the logic. You have a system of racism in place, so as long as you have that system of racism in place, you're going to have all of the characteristics of a system in racism that are going to be functioning. All of them have never stopped. The same, whatever you have in the computer, you might say, and racism is computerized, that's what you're going to get and continue to get it as long as you have that system. And that's all that I see. I mean, it's almost like gotten into the ho-hum range, you know. I mean, reaction. I mean, everything is just predictable over and over and over again. You have the system of white supremacy in place. You're going to have all of the characteristics of the system of white supremacy just doing what the system of white supremacy does. If you have a car does what a car does. If you have a can opener does what a can opener does. A can opener does not do what a car does. And a car doesn't do what a can opener does. They're two different things. And when you set up a system of government called the system of white supremacy or world government, what you have is that government and all of the characteristics of that government every minute of every day doing the same thing it has always done. That's it. So when you pick up the news, it's going to be the same.
Yes, sir. All righty. With that being said, I thought I would challenge or open up today's discussion about the 4 ones. It's been really bothering me. But in your book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which is white supremacy. On page 171 of this book, Mr. Fuller, you wrote at the bottom of the page, every day, all day, whatever you are, wherever you are, ask yourself these 4 basic questions. Number 1, what do I do? Number 2, why do I want to do what I want to do? Number 3, how do I plan to do what I want to do? And number 4, what do I expect the constructive results to be? Keeping in mind with all the stuff that is going on in this dominated system of white supremacy, what made you focus in on these basic 4 questions that, quite frankly, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I don't think that people really ask themselves these questions every day?
Yes, they should.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's why I put them in the textbook. It's one of the last things I put into the 2016 Revised Expanded Edition, and I made sure that it got in there because I said that says a whole lot about what the entire book is saying. Just 4 questions, and these are questions every person should ask him or herself all day long, every day. And it keeps the person kind of grounded and focused.
Focused, yes.
Yes, that's what it's all about. You have to have clarity and focus about what you're supposed to be doing here on the planet. You have time and energy. Now, you're given that. What are you supposed to be doing with this time and energy? So it comes down to your wants. Everybody has wants. Every minute of every day. An infant child has wants, and it cries out for its wants in a crib. Birds have wants. Squirrels have wants. Alligators have wants. So it comes down usually to what do you want to do? You're going to be doing something. You're going to be in motion. Action. ACTION. When you think about things and you speak about things to yourself, even if you're talking to yourself, which is a thought, then you go into action. So it comes down to those 4 wants, all day long, every day. And so I put them in there as a focus mechanism for people to center their entire existence on.
Mm-hmm.
What is it I want to do? That's number 1.
Yes.
Why do I want to do what I want to do? If it's just taking a walk down the street, I think I'll go walking. What do I want to do? I want to go walking. Why do I want to go walking? Well, I think it'll kind of clear my mind and it might help my body a little bit. I need to take a walk. I need to just get out here and take a walk. So you answered your first 2 questions. What do you want to do? You want to take a walk. Why do you want to do it? To kind of clear your mind, to try to get your thoughts together. You've been bothered about a lot of things lately, and it kind of gets all messed up and whatnot. But maybe if I just take a walk somewhere, just take a walk in the woods or down the street, if it's nice and quiet, maybe I can get my thoughts together. That's why I want to take the walk. That's the second question. Now, how do I plan to do this? Well, I plan to do it by getting out of here as fast as I can, get a few things done in here that I got to do, and then get out there and take the walk. That's my plan. As soon as I can get up and do some of the things that I just have to do before I can take the walk, then I'll take the walk. And that's my plan. And it's be clear in my mind, all right? And so that's partially in number 3. I'm even partially answering the question, the 4th question, which is bottom line question. What do I expect the constructive result to be? The constructive result is when I come back here from taking my walk and clearing my mind about these problems I have, these problems, I should have some idea about how to solve these problems. That's what I expect the constructive result to be. And this is how every black person on the planet should be thinking every day, all day.
Mm-hmm.
And underline that word constructive. And underline the second word behind it, the last word. Constructive result.
Results, yes.
What
Okay.
do I expect the constructive result, underline constructive result, to be of everything that I plan to do, of that I want to do? Because you have wants every minute of the day. It's not a minute of the day if you're awake. It's every creature has a want during that very minute. But you want to make sure that your wants, if they're carried out, are going to produce constructive results. You should always think about that.
Okay.
Constructive results.
I was in a conversation with a young lady from Albuquerque the other day, and that came up. She was having some problems, so I asked her about what do you want to do? What is it that you really want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And then why do you want to do whatever it is that you want to do? I said, now ask yourself this. And then, of course, then the third, when do you want, or when do you plan to do? Yeah, when do you plan to do whatever it is that you want? And then the fourth one, what do you expect the constructive results, to be? And she took a minute and she said, I don't know. And I said, well, that's all right, but you got to think about it. Think about what you really want to do. Is that unusual that people have to take the time to think about what it is that they really want to do?
I was getting that same answer from people, all right, and even starting out with myself. See, black people have been highly trained to just sit and stare in space until a white person comes and kicks them off of that bench and say, I got plans for you. You ain't got no plan of your own, so I got plans for you. I know what to do with you people. I mean, I'm a thinker. I run things. I get things done. I'm a white man or a white woman in the system of white supremacy. We don't fool around. I mean, we use our time and energy. We have wants, and we carry out our wants. You all just sit around just kind of looking at each other and staring in space. I mean, you're negrified. You're frozen. So I come and kick you out of your apathy. That's what I do. That's my specialty. That's what the white supremacists do.
Mm-hmm.
So they say, so here's what I want you to do, Negro. And the reason I want you to do it is because I want this, that, and the other, and all like that.
Yes, sir.
And here's the plan, because I always have a plan, even when you don't. And you people never have a plan of any kind that makes sense, all right? I have plans, all the time. I got millions of plans, okay? So they give us their plan, so we go shuffling along with their plan. And then they get constructive results for themselves. And it's a shamble of a result for their victims, who are the black people of the planet. And that's why you have what you call white supremacy. And in answer to the question, why are we like that? Because we've been trained from birth.
Yes.
To be like that. Just to be objects kind of sitting around. Just pieces of furniture, broken furniture. Just sitting around till somebody comes and finds some way to salvage something out of what's sitting there, which is us.
Yeah, which is us. Okay. 516-453-9921 is the number that you would call if you'd like to join in on the conversation. Let's go to the Gmails. This comes from Jakari. He says this, Mr. Fuller, there are so many religions and everyone thinks theirs is in the right one, that everybody else is wrong if they don't practice the same. This is very divisive, and it also promotes mass confusion, in my opinion. Mr. Fuller, if religion is just another method of confusion by the white supremacists, or is it, excuse me, he said if, but I guess the question is, Mr. Fuller, is religion just another method of confusion by the white supremacists? And if it's true, then why are we still practicing them and playing into their hands?
Because that's the way we're trained. It goes right back to the previous question. See, we don't know anything except what they teach us. We are born in the system of white supremacy. It's a prison system. We're born in prison. So when you're born in prison, you don't know anything except prison. And the prison masters tell you everything that they think that you need to know in order to make model prisoners. So when we look at ourselves that way, and that's the truth, and I'm saying it's the truth, people can examine it for themselves and see it's the truth, because I found it to be the truth, then you expect us to act the way that we have been trained. Babies act the way that they have been trained to act. And we are babies in the system of white supremacy. So they have a thing called religion, which is the system of white supremacy, is the strongest religion. So when they tell black people that they can practice religion too, it's got to be supportive of the system of white supremacy. So therefore, they will allow black people to practice all kinds of so-called religions, but all of these religions that black people practice have got to be directly and indirectly in support of the religion of white supremacy, which is the supreme religion. And what is religion? What is religion itself? According to compensatory logic, a strong belief backed up by action. So, the strongest belief in the known universe among the people of the planet Earth has been the system of white supremacy. White people believe in, many white people believe in, I won't say all, but a huge numbers of white people believe in whiteness being supreme over non-whiteness when it comes to people in all areas of activity. So they believe that they should have a religion called the religion of white supremacy, which has become the supreme religion of all religions. So they'll allow their victims to have any kind of religion by any other kind of name, whatever they want to call it, as long as what black people do is what the white supremacists want them to do. But now, how you pray, or what day you pick, or what arguments you have, they say, we'll leave that up to you all. You all can do all that you want to. But at the beginning and end of each day and all during the day, you will do what I tell you to do. Because I have the supreme religion. And the name of that religion is white supremacy. And you black people will do what I tell you to do in all 9 areas of activity. Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, whatever your chosen religion is, and in the other areas of activity, sex and war. We will tell you what to do in everything that you do. Now, you can argue among yourselves about which religion sounds best and which religion, you can have a special day for. All that little trivial stuff, we'll let you do. But you will do what I tell you to do and when I tell you to do it. Or you will hear from me. Because according to my religion, when it comes to you dark-skinned people, I'm your God. And you better act like I am. And so far, they are proven that they can make good on that promise.
Okay. All righty. This next question comes from Jaleel. Says this: Good morning, Mr. Fuller. I'm from Laurel, Maryland. I don't know where that's at, but Laurel, Maryland. My question, according to logic, as non-white people, if we are accused of committing crimes, how should we defend ourselves in the system of white supremacy without our reputations being ruined?
Black people don't have any reputation except being victims of white supremacy. That's another thing. All of our so-called reputations are fabricated. Reputation with whom? You better get a reputation with white people, because they're the ones that feed you. They're the ones that feed me. They're the ones that clothe me. They're the ones that house me. They're the ones that tells me what an education is and how to go about getting it, and that I better get it according to their rules. That's white supremacy. So what kind of reputation do we have except being victims of white supremacy? We're prisoners of war. What reputation does a prisoner of war have? So how can you ruin a prisoner of war's reputation when that's all a prisoner of war has been since birth? Born in prison. That's the reputation I have. Victim of white supremacy. That's the reputation that I have. That's the only reputation I've ever had that did count. So I don't know what black people mean when they say reputation. What is that when it comes to a black person? Reputation with whom? With whom? Whom do you have this reputation with? Other black people? They're just fellow prisoners. Prisoners of war have a reputation. Yes, they have it. A reputation for what? Being prisoners of war. That's it. That's all of it. Nothing else you can say about it. All prisoners of war are just prisoners of war. Prisoners are prisoners are prisoners. Slaves are slaves are slaves. What reputation does a slave have except being a slave? That's the question.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, in order to answer the question, I have to know what reputation are we talking about. We're reputed to be what? Reported. Reputation means somebody makes a report on you. Okay, what report do you make about a black person? Any black person in the system of white supremacy. Oh, well, what is their reputation? They've got a reputation for being victims of white supremacy. That's it. Prisoners of war. You've been in captivity. You're in captivity. You were born in captivity. And as long as the system of white supremacy lasts, you will die in captivity.
Okay. 516-453-9921 is the contact number, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a station break right now so that when you answer this next question on codification, it will not be interrupted. Okay, you are listening, to the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. Contact number is 516-453-9921 if you want to join the conversation or have a comment or VGQ. You can also Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, and I may read your comments today. And also the chat room is open, and I can read some of those today. So whatever you decide, you can do that. Later on, in about 22 minutes, Mr. Fuller will talk about a book, or his book, that you can get to follow along and to help you as a victim of white supremacy. Stay tuned for that. Coming up. Okay, Mr. Fuller, let's go to this question from Angelicus says this. Greetings, Mr. Fuller and listeners. Mr. Fuller, upon reading your book, I've realized that my whole life I've been seeking and using codes, i.e., I grew up using the Zulu code and also used the hip-hop code later on in life. One of the pioneers of hip-hop named himself after a Zulu king called Bambata. Looking at how both the Zulu nation and hip-hop both were built by black people for black people, but later was tainted and sabotaged by the enemy, white supremacists. Mr. Fuller, my question to you is, what is the codified procedure to defend the code from being tainted by the enemy, white supremacists?
By writing it down and making sure that what you have is a part of the compensatory code. And that proves itself by whether or not it's supposed to be effective. Because by code, you just mean something that is effectively constructive. That's really all it comes down to, something that produces constructive results. Because anything that a black person does that produces a constructive result is a counter-racist code. So the white supremacists can't so-called taint the code, because all you have to do is just say, it's what's going on, is it constructive or non-constructive? Because if it's non-constructive, then it's supporting the system of white supremacy. And if it's constructive, it's against the system of white supremacy. So that's all you have to do is just have that criteria. Constructive, non-constructive. See, anything that is constructive for a black person that produces a constructive result, any act that you say, anything that you say to someone, any song that you write that produces constructive results is anti-white supremacy. So there's no way to taint that. There's no way to get confused, because all you have to do every day is just ask, this thing that we did last night, did it have a constructive effect? If it had a constructive effect on the thinking, the thoughts, the speech, or the actions of black people, then that is anti-white supremacy. So there's no way to get confused. That's not going to happen. Now, the white supremacists will do everything they can to what you call destroy a counter-racist code, but they can't destroy the difference between what's constructive and what's not. So even though they're experts at causing confusion, when you get confused, you can always go to just that, constructive results. You know, just look at a crowd of black people and say, this thing that we're doing right now, is it producing constructive results? Yes or no? Or is it producing non-constructive results? Yes or no? See, there's nothing in between.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't get lost. That's impossible. That's not going to happen. That's why we need a code that's based on what? Producing constructive results. If it ain't producing constructive results, it ain't code. That's it.
Okay. There's a question by one of our loyal persons named Brian. Mr. Fuller, he asks, have you ever heard of the term woke supremacy?
I've heard that, and it's a bunch of terms that's coming up now. Like, what do they call it? Dealing with culture, they call it...
You mean the cancel culture?
Cancel culture. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I mean, recently, always watch, see the code, that's a part of the code. Watch new terms that show up out of nowhere. Now, sometimes black people invent. You know, we invent a lot of terms, particularly in our popular way of doing things in the entertainment field. That's where a lot of new words come from in the entertainment field. So we use familiar with those. But this thing about cancel culture, see, what's that? And that's the question you should ask. And you should ask the person who came up with the term, if you can find out who it is, because these terms come out of nowhere. Well, we can't have this cancel culture. Well, wait a minute. What are you talking about? Now you're coming up with a new term again, okay? So that's what you ask. Who came up with the term, and what does it mean before we all start using it or scratching our heads about it?
Okay.
I mean, we just ask a question. What does it mean? What is it supposed to mean? And not only that, is it going to produce a constructive result?
Okay.
All right. You say, well, we got to get rid of this cancel culture. Okay, get rid of it and put what kind of culture in its place? After we define what cancel culture is. Yeah, you're canceling a culture. What do you mean by that? What culture did I cancel? Are you charging me with a crime or what? And what is the crime? Well, you're canceling my culture. Well, wait a minute. What is your culture that I cancel? When did I cancel it? Let's go to court now. It's cancel culture. I mean, that's on the docket.
Yes,
the crime of canceling culture. Is that supposed to be a crime or what? Or is that some type of new, cereal that you eat? I don't know what you're talking about. Explain it.
Okay. Our listener, Brian, sent this to me about the woke supremacy. And his comment was a video or a YouTube video. It said woke supremacy just as bad as white supremacy, as spoken by Republican Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. Let me see if I can get that up here so that we all can hear it. Just a second here. That might be it. Wait a minute. There we go. I think this is it. Nope. How about that? I wanted to play and it won't play. That's too bad.
You say the term is woke?
Yeah, woke. Yeah, like
woke supremacy.
That's what he said, woke supremacy. I'm going to read this to you. It says,
okay, well, here again. I mean, we got to find out. Hey, codification is about definitions. Okay. So I want to know exactly what woke supremacy is and exactly what woke supremacy ain't.
Okay. According to this article, Republican South Carolina Senator Tim Scott has hit out at criticism that his party, Republican Party, is using him as a prop because he is black by suggesting such remarks are an example of woke supremacy. Scott, the GOP's only black senator, used the term while responding to comments from MSNBC's Joy Reid, who suggested Scott was only in attendance at a press conference opposing the minimum wage increase to create a penta of diversity within the party. I had never heard of the term, before that either, woke supremacy, but to say that it's just as bad as white supremacy, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, wait a minute. I mean, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you first heard this term, because I've heard it. Now, according to the code, I'm required when someone comes up with a term, even if it takes 40 days and 40 nights, I want a definition for that term and all the details that go in that definition. Not just some kind of breezy definition. Well, it's the counterculture. I mean, now, what does that mean? Okay, I haven't even gotten this counterculture thing straight yet. Because I've never been able to track down exactly what it means. What do you mean, counterculture? Counterculture, and then cancel culture, and then what other words you gonna put in front of culture, and then hand it to me? And I'm supposed to be running down the road with it. I don't know what none of this stuff means. Wait a minute, let's sit down and talk. All right. So that is what you call the counter-racist codified procedure.
Yes,
when
sir.
you hear these new terms, say, wait a minute, before we start talking about and accusing and whatnot, and just throwing these terms around, let's get some definitions that everybody can understand in simple language. Otherwise, we ain't going nowhere with that. I ain't going to even talk about it. I ain't going to even address it. All right? And that should be the procedure. That's the codified procedure. That's what we haven't been doing. Because what did it mean when you heard it? What does it mean to you now? Do you know what cancel culture is by definition?
Myself, no. I mean, I had just heard
because you
that
said
term.
That you heard it, so...
But I don't know what it means.
I don't know what it means.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever explained to me what it means. I haven't seen it in the papers. I haven't heard it on the radio. I haven't seen it on TV. I just hear, cancel culture, woke supremacy. Now, whoever's using the term, according to the code, is supposed to explain it.
Yeah.
In detail. Not just some breezy definition. Well, it means something different from all the rest of the stuff out here. And then run down the road. That ain't no definition.
That's no definition at all.
No.
Okay, 516-453-9921. Let me do this. I know Sue. Sue. I'm sorry. You can get me on that, but Swa, I know your number, so that you're okay. But this person here, I do not know. So when you call in, please, ma'am, please, sir, give the call screener your name so that I can properly introduce you. Sorry about that, Swa. I'll get you. There we go. Thank you, Leona. Here we go. Let me get you in here. Leona, see, we got you. Okay, Leona, good morning. You can be heard. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Good morning. Mr. Fuller, I've heard you say in the past how the system of white supremacy has filled its victims with poison, the non-white people with poison. More and more I'm coming to see the value of minimizing contact to minimize conflict. Now, the poisons that this system has planted in us from birth, what do you call that poison? And when you're not in contact with other people and that poison comes up inside you or whatever, what's the best way to deal with it? I'm looking at the poison. I'm thinking of terms like, it expresses itself as self-hatred, this poison, But I'm wondering what you mean by the poisons that have been placed in us. And again, like I said, I'm seeing the importance of minimizing contact to minimize conflict. How does one, root out that poison within oneself? Thank you, Mr. Fuller.
Going to the 4 wants that we discussed in this program earlier.
Mm-hmm.
What do I want to do? You ask yourself that. What do I want to do? Why do I want to do it? How do I plan to do it? And what do I expect the constructive result to be? That's how you get rid of the poison in yourself. Because when you get to that bottom line, what you expect the constructive result to be, and you look at it, and we started out on that first question, you gave the answer, what I want to do is go somewhere and look for some oxycodone, because I want to get high. All right, when you get to that fourth question that you ask yourself, what do I expect the constructive result to be? Well, there's not going to be a constructive result. So that's how you get rid of that poison. So then you go back to your first question, what do I want to do? And I ain't going to do that. I ain't going out and get no drugs, because that's not going to produce a constructive result. So that's how you get rid of the poison. It always has to do with what you're going to do. This phone call you're fixing to make to someone, like the phone call you're making now. You expected a constructive result, hopefully, and hopefully you're getting one, because you wanted to make a phone call. What do I want to do? I want to make a phone call. Why do I want to make this phone call? Because I got a question I want answered. How do I plan to make the phone call? By picking up the phone and making the call. So you took care of the first 3. Now, what do you expect the constructive result to be? I'm going to ask a question when I make this phone call about how I get rid of poison. And hopefully, whoever's on the other end of the line can tell me. And I hope that I just told you.
Let me see, because I queued her out here. Okay, get her back in here. Did that get that for you, Leona from the Midwest?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay. Oh, great. Thank you. And you know what? Don't be a stranger. All right. Thank you. All righty. We're going to go out to L.A. My man, no, he can't be heard. Swa, we got you. I'll figure out why I always say Sue, but I got you now. It's going to be Swa. Okay, go ahead, my brother.
Greetings, Mr. Bobby. Greetings, Mr. Neely Fuller. I'd like to stay on the line after I ask the question.
Okay.
Mr. Neely Fuller, can you explain how the peoples on planet Earth either function with a racist logic or a counter-racist logic, and what that means, and to produce justice? How and what that means.
Wait a minute. What is your question?
Can you explain how we are trained to either function with racist logic?
Wait a minute. I didn't get that other word. Can I explain how I have trained?
No, how we have been trained to. Let me simplify the question. Is it correct that there is only racist logic and counter-racist logic, and what that means?
Oh, it's a logic to everything. Logic just means you figure out whatever something is for. You know, what is a leaf on a tree for? That leaf on that tree serves some type of purpose. That's all logic is. Logic is, why are we here? Why are people here? Why are alligators here? Why is the ocean the way that it is? Why is the sun? All of these whys. There's an answer to all of those questions. So logic is the process of finding out the answers to questions. That's basically what logic is. So there's a logic to everything. The white supremacists figured out a logical way of running the world. Because somebody is. And what everybody would be doing on that basis. Everybody's assignment. They worked out an entire system in all areas of activity, and they put it together, and it became the most powerful religious and political system ever thought up in recorded history. And it's an evil system. And so we're all victims of that type of logic. But there's a logic to the system of white supremacy. Cause and effect. That's what logic is. You do something and you get an effect from something that you did. You throw a line, for example, when you go fishing, you throw a line in the water. It's got some bait on the end of that line, and the fish takes the bait, and you catch the fish. That's a logical process. You fool the fish into getting caught. The white supremacists are masters of that type of thing. That's why they like to go fishing even when they don't eat fish. Stay in practice. I'm going to fool this fish. The fish think it's getting away with something. In fact, I'm going to have a line with a reel on it, a little wire or some type of string or something like that, and I'm going to have a big drum, and I'm going to let that fish think it's getting away with something, like I do with these black people. I let them think they come on a job and think that they can steal, and I don't know that they are stealing. See, I know when I'm going to fire them, when I hired them. I know the exact date that I'm going to fire them, because I'm going to put some bait out here, and they're going to steal it, thinking that they're getting away with something, because they think that they are better thieves than I am, and I'm the master thief. I taught them how to steal, and they think that they're going to come in my shop and steal something. My ancestors taught me all about stealing. That's how I can steal whole continents. So black people run around here thinking they know how to steal something in my warehouse, and I don't know that they're stealing it. I mean, that's laughable. I'm the master thief. I know everything there is about stealing. They ain't been to grade school in theft yet, these black people. And they think they can come in my warehouse and steal from me, and I don't know that they're stealing. I let them get away with it until I just walked in one day and said, "Hey, buddy, you're fired." Because I know you've been stealing. You've been stealing for the last 5 years. But, and I've been letting you do it because I wasn't paying you nothing no way, But now I got an excuse to really fire you. And, I mean, it's really not an excuse. I got a legitimate reason because you've been stealing, okay? And I kind of deviated there a little bit, but I hope you get the message. That that's what logic is, cause and effect. And the most logical people are people who can figure out what the effect of something's going to be before they do it. And the white supremacists are the most logical people on the planet. That's why they are masters at what they do. They not only know what's going to happen right up front, they know what's going to happen down the road. In fact, they set it up to happen. All right? Because they're great planners, too. See, black people just go along. That's why we keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And somebody mentioned something early on the program about reputation, okay? We don't have no reputation. Like, when you get pulled over, don't start thinking about your dignity and your rights. You ain't got none. I'm going to say that over and over again because, not that apparently it's not doing no good. It's not taking root at all. Don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee. Why? Because it ain't going to work. That's why. It just ain't going to work. It just ain't going to work. It is not going to work. It is not, it's not going to work. Black people all over the world, you get pulled over, white people with guns, you're going to die. That's what that means. Don't think you're not. Don't get it in your head you may get away. You ain't getting away with nothing. You're going to die. Teddy bears, balloons on a ragged ghetto fence. Black people standing out there in the rain hugging each other. That's what you're going to get out of you telling them what you ain't going to do. That's what you're going to get. Every time. Every time. It's not logical. You're a prisoner of war. Act like one.
I think that was demonstrated by the brother or the non-white person that was in the uniform of this country, sticking his hands out the window because he was afraid that if he made any movements that he was going to get shot because guns were drawn on him. So it didn't matter if he was in the uniform of this country. With what could have happened to him. He didn't fuss. He didn't fight. He didn't. But he was certainly talked down to, and something about a lightning chair or some old stuff like that. At least that is what was reported on the national news. That kind of activity did not and does not surprise you, Mr. Fuller. I'm asking.
You should always predict that this is going to happen. You're going to get maced. You haven't said nothing. You haven't done nothing. You conform with everything. Not only are you going to get maced, you're going to get dead. That's how the black person should be thinking. The minute you see those flashing lights, oh boy, I'm dead today. I'm dead today. I'm dead today. This ain't no game. I am DEAD. Oh, wow. Neely Fuller thinks like that. I mean, they've come up, I'd like to see your license and your registration, sir. Sometimes they're polite, initially. Okay? Yes, sir. What do you want me to do, sir? I want you to get your license and registration. It's in my glove compartment. What do you want me to do, sir? Well, get it out of the glove compartment. Yes, sir. Okay? And move slowly. Don't make no sudden moves. Open the glove compartment. Get the license and registration out. And say, well, you have an obliterated tag on your license plate. It's covered with mud. And we're looking for somebody that was involved in a robbery and they've covered their license plate with mud. He might say that, or he might not give you any explanation at all. He just goes back to his car and sits there for an hour and then comes back. I'm not saying nothing else. He's giving me all instructions, and whatever instructions he gives me, get out and get on the ground. I'm getting out and getting on the ground. I'm on my way to a wedding, maybe, wearing a white suit. Well, that's all off now. I'm a prisoner of war. Neely Fuller understands that. I understand that. I don't think that I got a military uniform on and you see my insignia. I'm a colonel in the U.S. Army. I work at the Pentagon, and I'm also affiliated with the CIA, and I got my hand on the nuclear button. You ain't got your hand on nothing. That guy standing outside that door got his hand on that 9mm. All right? Or even if he ain't got his hand on it. See, I'm dead. And that uniform don't mean nothing because I got a uniform up under that uniform. And part of it is showing my black face. That's a uniform. That's the only uniform that counts on this planet anywhere, which means I'm subject to white supremacy automatically. I don't ever get that out of my head.
Okay. Tell you what we're going to do here, Mr. Fuller, and I'm glad you addressed it that way. This is the time for you, and we got about 5 minutes, so talk about your book.
Yes. You can get the book that kind of directly, indirectly explains why we need a code, and because the book is called a code, suggestions for building a code, you can get it by going to producejustice.com. And all of the things that I say here on air and whatnot, either directly, indirectly, are in this book called Textbook Workbook for Victims of White Supremacy, along with a word guide. It's 2 volumes, but it's all the same book, really, basically. But I had to put it in 2 volumes. If I can ever figure out a way to get it in 1 volume, I'll definitely do that and bring that price down, too, along with it, if I can get it in 1 volume, because that'll automatically go with a 1-volume book. But go to producejustice.com, and all the material for ordering is there. Because what we need is a code. It's a code book. Code book meaning knowing what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say. Suggestions about what questions to ask people. Like, we've been talking about questions to ask about what do you mean by cancel culture. That's not in the book, because that term just came up out of nowhere. These terms will keep coming at us, all right? That's what you get in the white supremacist system. You'll get a whole lot of words with no definitions. And we go chasing after these words, and the words are nothing but phantom words because they'll never explain. But we'll rack our brains trying to figure out what somebody means because it's a foreign language. Foreign to whom? Foreign to me when I hear it. You don't give me a definition. And now you're using a term I don't understand. And what does that cause? It causes what the white supremacists want to cause, confusion. Because they know that once they confuse a person, they got them. Okay? So go to producejustice.com to get the textbook for victims of white supremacy about how to counter all this activity and to understand what's going on around you and what to do about it as an individual person.
All righty. ProduceJustice.com, you can get all the books are in, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They should be available at ProduceJustice.com.
Okay, because I did get an email or Gmail from a brother from, England and a brother from Spain about books. So evidently the distribution of the book is becoming smoother. So because people are getting it, and also in South Africa, people are getting the publication and putting it into practice. And to me, it just seems that there has been a hunger for what's in the suggestions that are in the publication or in your book. And I think that's very encouraging. But anyway, let's do this. That first hour, man, it went fast. It's gone. So for those of you who are with the show, we want to thank you for your calls, your concerns, your Gmails, and all. Thanks for listening. But if you are going to stay, because we have another hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, and that will commence in about 10 seconds. So thank you for listening if you got to go. All righty. Thank you, and welcome to the top of the hour. This is the second hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., and I am the co-host, Mr. Bobby. Now, to get in contact with the show, you can simply dial 516-453-9921, and if you will, please, ma'am, please, sir, when the call screener gets on there, give them your name so that I can properly introduce you. You can give a VGQ today if it's short, and a question if you do have one. You can also contact the show by doing a Gmail, and that is 7MrBobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com. And you may get on today just as Roland is getting ready to get on here. Here's his VGQ that I will read. He says, my VGQ is the new Amazon Prime show called Them, is a great representation of the insanity racist white supremacy causes. Okay, I don't have Amazon Prime, but we'll see what we can do with that. Okay, here's his question for you, Mr. Fuller. He says, what is the codified procedure for handling conversations with suspected white supremacists where to stir the conversations toward race relations, when they steer conversations toward race relations?
What is codified procedure?
Yeah, when suspected white supremacists when they steer the conversation towards race relations.
Oh, if a white person is talking to me about race, I let them talk. That's the basic procedure. And when they have a question, you just answer the question. But when they initiate the conversation, that means they know what they are going to say. Or if they don't know what they're going to say, I guess they'll say what they're going to say, which means they know what they're going to say when they say that. So then you just answer the questions according to the code if they ask you questions. And if they have something to say to you about race, just listen. And then you ask questions. And always ask the questions based on, you can even go straight to the code, page 171, dealing with the wants. You always want to know what the white person wants first. If a white person is talking to me about anything, anytime a white person is talking to a black person, that black person, according to the code, should first of all find out what it is that the white person wants. Because there's a reason that the white person is talking to the black person in the first place. And if a white person is talking to a black person about anything, it usually is a strong indication that that white person wants something from that black person. Otherwise, that white person is not going to be talking to that black person about nothing. Because there's not a whole lot of reasons for a white person to talk to a black person about anything in the system of white supremacy. And there are reasons for that. So that's the procedure. Mm-hmm. If a white person wants to talk about race, said, all right, I'm here, folks, and as you can see, I'm a white person, and I have a few things to say about race and racism and counter-racism, and I'd like for you to listen for a little while to what I have to say. So every black person is supposed to quietly sit down and listen. When a white person wants to talk about race and racism, you listen. And don't argue. Even when you start asking questions, don't argue about the answers that you get. Just have another question ready. Don't ever argue with anybody, white or non-white, about race, racism, or counter-racism. It's not a subject for argument. It's a subject for conversation. And how do you have that conversation? Questions and answers. Because through the process of questions and answers, what will happen? Logically speaking, everybody will wind up on the page that they ought to be on. Everybody will wind up in a place where they should be. It won't be where everybody wants to be, But through that process of questions and answers, you're going to wind up where you should be. That's kind of racist logic.
All righty. Let's go to the Gmails. And this is from Divitude saying this: Mr. Fuller, do white people send signals to each other to let the group know they are still team white supremacy? I saw a white male who was heavily into rap music, had a low fade haircut, and spoke in urban black men's vernacular in his teens and 20s. Now that he's older, he's wearing an alt-right haircut, and we know that the alt-right is a white supremacist group. He is also married to a black woman. So is him wearing an alt-right haircut letting other white supremacists know he's on their side?
I don't know, because I don't know what that haircut means. Just like I don't know what any hair means on anybody. I don't even know what message is being sent, which is one of the questions when we start talking about hair. I mean, what message are you sending, and what's going to be the constructive result? Because people have what you call hairdos. Black people have hairdos. White people have hairdos. Okay. Is this message hair? See, that's a question that can be asked. Is your hair supposed to be sending a message? And what is the message you're sending? And to whom? And what do you expect the constructive result to be of your message? So if I see a white person with what they call an alt-right hairdo, I don't know what that means. So how do you get answers to questions? By asking questions. So I would just ask that white person, oh, I see you have a hairdo. What is that hairdo supposed to accomplish? What is supposed to be the constructive result? When I look at your hairdo, is that supposed to be a message of some type? And what is the message? And then don't you lean into the question. I call it leaning into the question by suggesting what it could mean. Wait for the person to tell you what it means. And then have another question. See, don't start arguing about the answer that you got if you have another question. And that's the procedure. Now, you said something else about this white person, that he was so-called married to a black female. Now, in the system of white supremacy, if a white man is having sexual intercourse with a black female, that's a code violation. So the question is not whether or not he's married to a black female. The question is he having sexual intercourse with her? And if he is, that's a code violation. Why? That's child abuse. Why is that child abuse? Because the black female is in the position of being a child in the system of white supremacy. That's a childlike position, victim of white supremacy. Is the black female a victim of white supremacy in the system of white supremacy? The answer is yes, because all black people are victims of white supremacy. So if a white person is having sexual intercourse with a black person in the system of white supremacy, that is child abuse on a part of the white person involved. Why? Logically speaking, because the black person is in a childlike position. That's why. No matter what their age is or what experiences they have had or how much they know, it's still child abuse. Why? Because the black person is always in a childlike position under the system of white supremacy, been rendered in a childlike position. Now, what is a childlike position? Helpless, dependent, have to ask for everything that is of any value in all areas of activity. And every black person on the planet in 2021 qualifies for the position of a child in the system of white supremacy, which is the dominant system of the entire planet in the year 2021. It's the dominant government of all black people in the year 2021, planet-wide. Now, that statement is either true or false.
True or false, okay. Just a reminder, please, ma'am, please, sir, when you call in and you want a question, make sure you depress the number 1 button, because I've just been informed that there's been a few that have called in, and then I couldn't see that, so if I can't see it, then I can't get to you, but I'm going to make every effort to get to all the calls that are here because the phone lines are jammed. So make sure that you give the call screener your name and make sure you depress that number 1 button. Okay, let's go here to the 646, and you can be heard. This is James from the Bronx. Okay, James, what is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Hey, morning, Mr. Fuller. All right, so recently in the past week, I've seen 2 incidents on the media of black people getting pulled over by police. Now, this one, I immediately thought of you because this one person was military. Now, he was stopped by the police, supposed to be a routine traffic stop. He's being stopped at gunpoint, and the police are escalating the situation, but he's staying very undisciplined in that he's making a fuss out of it. I thought of you because you have such a military discipline, and that obviously is incorporated into your code. But I need you to emphasize again for just the people who don't know, because there needs to be a standard in which we relate to the police and just respond to police when they approach us. Because this man was military, he stayed very undisciplined, and he gave clearance for these police to escalate the situation and pepper spray him and, just brutalize him at will. This isn't a game. And now this other one, this boy, another routine traffic stop, he's getting stopped by the police, and he's making a fuss. He doesn't want to get stopped. He apparently has a warrant, and this automatically gives clearance for one of the white female race soldiers to make up an excuse where she's using a taser. She thought she was using a taser, but no, it was a gun, and the boy's dead. And now it's coming off as like just an accident. Could you please emphasize to us non-white people, black people specifically, the importance of not fussing, not fighting, not fleeing, and that we're prisoners of war? We need to understand this standard because we keep dying because of our failures to do it. So, thank you.
All righty. Thank you for that VGQ. Let's go to David. David from Dayton, Ohio, and you can be heard. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
How you doing, Mr. Bobby? How you doing, Mr. Fuller?
All righty. Good morning.
I got a quick question, and maybe an answer might be all over the place. But this is what I want to talk about. It's this gentleman here where I live at. He was like 80 years old, and he pulled up on his phone. It was another guy. He was showing me this black guy. He had an all-white audience of white people, and he was talking about white supremacy on YouTube. It was on YouTube, and he was talking about white supremacy on YouTube to a whole bunch of white people. Now, the white supremacy system. Now, the white supremacy system, he was talking about, the guy was talking to all white audience, but racism, but don't the white people, shouldn't they go back and talk to they people, the white people, about racism and stuff like, and what, the abuse of black people? And also, here quickly, when black people do constructive things, white people use, I'm white and I'm say so, and then they start to get indirect threats and direct threats, and they want to harm black people. You know, that's just something. Just to help Mr. Fuller out here a little bit. The excuse is, you know, they set up stuff. You know, that's what they do. You know, that's their excuse. Their excuse is to set up stuff, you know. And that's what they do. But, you know, it's just to me, maybe like, they're just bullies. And, you know, and then they really want to end a conversation when you say racism. You use a word like that. So that's, you know, that's what I want to say, because it was, like, confusing me. I was like, well, he's saying this black guy, he got an all-white audience, a big crowd, and he's talking about the white supremacy system, you know. And I'm like, well, all these white people is paying attention. Shouldn't they go back? Because they can't talk about it to me, because my VGQ, I live it every day, every minute, every hour, everything that I do. Like Mr. Fuller said, you know, it's in every area of activity, everything. And, you know, so that's it.
Okay. VGQ, okay. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to Dallas, and we have Lola. Go ahead. Lola, you're on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Greetings to you, Mr. Bobby. Greetings to you, Mr. Fuller. It's always an honor, Mr. Fuller, to speak with you. I must say, this past week, we lost a wounded warrior, DMX. So I think a lot of black people is still grieving over the loss of our brother. And I've been doing a lot of grieving before DMX passed, just due to our condition. You know, it's just very overwhelming sometimes. And I know that crying is not going to solve the problem or move anything, but it's just my reality. Black males are very, very intelligent. I've just been doing a lot of observing, and they have broken this problem down to the basic biology, just not the psychology of what we're dealing with, but the biology. So I would like to say that. And my question is to you, Mr. Fuller. What is the evidence that you see that the system can be dismantled and we can produce justice?
All right. Thank you for your call, Lola. Mr. Fuller?
I didn't get the question.
Lola, could you ask that question again?
Yes. What is the evidence that you may see or observe?
What is the evidence?
Yes, sir.
Evidence of what?
The evidence that you see, that you observe from black people, that we can dismantle the system and produce justice.
What is the evidence that we can produce justice?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Oh, we don't have any evidence that we can produce justice because justice has never been produced. There are no examples of justice having been produced. People have talked about it for thousands of years. That whole concept of justice, which means, in my opinion, guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help at all times, no exception. Nobody's being mistreated, and everybody who needs constructive help gets that constructive help. That has never happened in recorded history, as far as I know. So we don't have any examples to go by at all. But we do have an outline of what justice is because we have a definition. That's all we have. So we should aim to make that real.
Hello?
I hear static in the background.
Conversation. Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Yes. So that is what we're supposed to be producing. We're supposed to be producing something that has never happened before. But you cannot do it and have the system of white supremacy in the same universe at the same time. That's impossible. You have to get rid of the system of white supremacy. So what you try to do, you produce justice in the process of getting rid of the system of white supremacy. At the same time, simultaneously, the system of white supremacy is codified, meaning they have a certain way of going about doing everything. Black people have to have a counter way of going about doing everything. Everything that the white supremacists are doing that is non-constructive, we have to have something constructive that becomes more powerful than what they're doing, which means some type of thinking, some type of speaking, some type of acting that's counter to what they are doing. Okay, for one thing, for example, they spread falsehood. So we should spread truth. Tell the truth about everything, even when it hurts our feelings. And if black people tell the truth about everything, it's definitely going to hurt black people's feelings. All right? And black people, I'm black, we don't want our feelings hurt. But in order to tell the truth about our situation, we're going to have to hurt our own feelings. And we're going to have to hurt the feelings of a whole lot of white people. Because it's like any kind of real rampart cancer, which is what white supremacy is. You might have to do a little cutting, which means you cut into people's feelings in order to get that cancer out. And so the truth does that. So the white supremacists use falsehood, so black people should reveal truth. Truth is that which is. Tell it like it is. That's a slang saying that we can use, because we should always tell it like it is on all sides. Whatever black people faults we have, say what these faults are. And we got a bunch of them, because in the system of white supremacy, we have acquired more faults than we have acquired anything. So we are seriously flawed people. We ain't got nothing to be proud of. Nothing. All right? So we right out the gate, we say that. We clear the deck on that right now. We have become what the white supremacists has made us. A bunch of throwaway material. That's what we are. That's what we are right now. And we shouldn't be proud of throwaway material the way we are now. The way we are now, we want somebody to like us. That's a huge mistake. There's nothing to like if we tell the truth. What is it about black people that is to like? I ain't talking about no love. I'm talking about just name something about black people. When you say black people, I really like this about black people. Like what? What is it we're doing that anybody would like that's got any sense? I can't name anything that stands out that's purely black. See, we're saying, this is a black thing. I can't name no black thing that anybody who's not high on drugs would like. That's strictly black, what we call black culture. Nothing. Why? Because I don't see nothing constructive. And if it's something constructive, I'd like to know what it is. So we can tell the truth about anything. Because the white supremacists don't even like that. See, when we're talking about likes, when black people tell it like it is on what we are lacking in, when we reveal our flaws and that we're aware of our flaws, and then we let the white supremacists know that these flaws that we have came from them. They don't like that, okay? But that's what they should get, because we're telling the truth.
Telling the truth.
Our flaws come from them. So that's all we need, to start with, truth. And then we'll work on, you're going to need truth in order to get justice anyhow.
All right.
So you start with that.
Let's go to Rainbow in Baltimore. Rainbow, wait a minute, see here. Okay, there you go, Rainbow. You can be heard. Go ahead with your question for Mr. Fuller.
Okay, I got a VGQ, and I got a
Make it real quick because
also.
we're getting short on time. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I wanted to say cancel culture came from canceling, and canceling was just any black person, black non-white males, to be specific, if they said something, you know, in the past, or just say anything that's against white supremacy, or say anything that hurts people's feelings, like Mr. Fuller just talked about, is going to get you canceled. 18 to 25, the age group is doing the most canceling these days. So I just want to say that about cancel culture. And woke, what woke means to me is white supremacy only kills everything. That's how I use woke, because the white supremacists will weaponize our language, like as we can see right now, Black Lives Matter. That's being weaponized against us. They're using our blackness as a way to destroy us even more. So, but my question is, Mr. Fuller, in your book, you wrote that when a non-white female has intercourse with a non-white male, that she is doing him a unearned favor. I just wanted you to elaborate on that and maybe explain what you mean by that.
Because we're not qualified. As males, we're not qualified to have sexual intercourse with anybody. So we are asking for a favor when we ask any black female to have sexual intercourse with us. And if she grants that favor, that is what that is. That's a favor. Why? Because we have been able to do nothing for her that is of any constructive value at all. We can fill her up with babies, and we are beggars. World beggars is what black people are, black males are. And the white supremacists said, you got to take care of those babies. Well, what we say to the white supremacists, I'm a baby. So you want a baby to take care of babies? So you got to take care of me first in order for me to take care of babies. So this thing about black males and child support and all like that, that's what the reality is. We can't support the black female. Why? Because we can't support ourselves. That's why. And why is it we can't support ourselves? Because we need support. Support from whom? From Big Daddy and Big Mama. And who are they? The white supremacists of this planet. We get everything from them because we are their prisoners of war. And I was thinking about this morning. Fuller, you've got to emphasize this and cement this in everybody's mind as best you possibly can. We are all veterans. When somebody walks up and asks any black male or any black female, are you a veteran? You say, oh, yes, absolutely. I'm a veteran of the worst war in the world. They'll say, well, what war? You know, you too. It seems like you're too young to be a veteran. Oh, no, I was born a veteran. I'm talking about a veteran of the system of white supremacy. That's war. That's war like you wouldn't believe. There ain't never been a war like that. There's never been anything, as big as that and as long as that. That's the longest war. There ain't never been in recorded history a war as long as the war of white supremacy against the non-white people of this planet. And I am a veteran of that war, and I was a veteran before I was born.
Wow.
Because I was born a prisoner of war. And even when I was being carried in my mother's womb, I was a prisoner of war because my mother was a prisoner of war. So I'm a vet, and I want vets' benefits. I'm disabled. I'm a disabled vet. I'm talking about sitting in court. I'm saying this now to black people all over the world. If you're in court, you can always say, and a lot of black people go to court, you can say, well, I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran of the war between those who believe in white supremacy and those who don't. And in that war, I was taken into captivity before I was born. So I am indeed a veteran and a disabled veteran. I've been disabled all of my existence. Disabled means not being able to do the things that I'm supposed to be doing. And that is an answer to the question of the caller, taking care of the business that I'm supposed to be taking care of. When I have sexual intercourse with a female and she has babies, I'm supposed to be able to take care of those babies. I can't take care of those babies. I can't guarantee her anything. Because I'm a baby. I've been rendered into a disabled veteran of a war that has babyized me.
Rainbow, thank you for your question. Do not be a stranger. And we are going to take a break if we're over the time limit, but you are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Now, to get in contact with the show, call 516-453-9921 and depress the number 1 button. And hopefully, you will get in rotation. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to get to you. Chat room is open. You can get on that. There are a lot of interesting conversations on the chat room. I like to commend those who are in the chat room for not taking the bait. And they know exactly what I mean. I'm proud of you. You did good today. You didn't take the bait. You can also Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y. And I might be able to get to it today. I don't think so, but I might be able to get to it. But anyway, thanks for listening, and let's continue on with the show. Let's see. From the chat room, Morphus 1994 says this: we have to raise our standards because if we are relying on whites to do it, it will never happen. Morpheus 1994 VGQ. All righty, let's do this. Boy, they're lining up here. Let's go, Victor from Toronto. You are now on, Mr. Fuller. You can be heard. What is your question?
Oh, hi, Mr. Bobby. Hi, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning,
today
sir.
Today I wanted to ask, yes, sir. What I wanted to ask you is about, what I'm really worried about is that Mr. Fuller will leave us, here, and pass away. I've been thinking about it for months because a lot of the times I look forward to the Tuesdays at 9 a.m. till 11 a.m. and to hear Mr. Fuller talk. And I know some of the things that he says that we have to learn to be our own leader, and that Mr. Fuller is not our leader. He's not our mentor. He's just a prisoner of war. But what he wants to do is to lead us to constructive logic. So I wanted to know from Mr. Fuller if he should leave us, here in this prison system called the system of white supremacy, what part of the book should we really focus on upon the day that he passes away so that we know what to do and what to say?
All of the book, all of the above. Anything that you're confronted with on that particular day. Because all codification is problem solving. So you just look at your problem and say, now how can I solve this problem by doing something constructive, because that's what problem solving is supposed to be about for every black person on the planet, every person of color on the planet. Problem solving. Solving problems without making any. And this is all in the code book. That's why I wrote the code book. So they will be here. It's like, when the code book is here, that's why I don't like anybody tampering with it. with the text of it. They can comment on it and all like that. They can write other books and all like that. But leave what I say just the way I said it, okay? And just read it and pick out parts of it, 9 areas of activity that will help you solve a problem. Because that's all codification is about. But problem solving has been going on long before Neely Fuller was ever appeared in the universe. And problem solving will continue. All Neely Fuller really did, this is different, is try to get black people to focus on problem solving. That's all I really did. I mean, just 2 words. And the best way to solve problems is what? First of all, you examine the problem. Like there's a virus out here. The first thing you want to do in solving a problem of having a virus is find out what it is. So we got a virus called white supremacy. So find out what it is and how it works. And then start coming up with formulas to solve that problem. And how do you solve all problems? Questions and answers.
Questions and answers. Mm-hmm.
That's how all problems are solved. So, I always tell people, if you follow Neely Fuller, what is Neely Fuller following? Because whatever he's following, you can follow the same thing if there's anything that makes sense. Because you're not supposed to be following nothing that doesn't make sense. But logic came with the universe. And if you were the only person on the planet, and that's how every black person should think. I'm the only person on the planet. Being the only person on the planet, what am I supposed to be doing? And so the answer jumps right out at you. Problem solving. Well, what problem am I supposed to be solving? Solving the problem of being the only person on the planet. What does the only person on the planet? The only person on the planet got some problems. You better believe that. So how are you going to solve them? Start asking questions. Asking questions of whom? Nature. Whatever's in front of me. Logic. Whatever was created along with me being created. So you look around and you say, now I got to find out the difference between something that's food, because I got a body here that requires food, and something that's not food. So I get answers to those questions by trial and error. You make mistakes. Babies make mistakes. But you learn from the mistakes made, and you eliminate the mistakes. Problem solving is eliminating mistakes. That's an answer to your question, I hope.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, Victor. Don't be a stranger. And you were next for your question to be answered, but that's all right. Mr. Fuller did it on the air. Okay, let's go out to San Diego. By the way, thank you, Jay in Fort Worth. And the person in the 757, please give your name so I can get you up here. But right now we're going to go to the 858. That's Ken in San Diego. Ken, you are on and you can be heard. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Good day, everyone. I'm just calling. I'm a first-time caller, and I just want to suggest that.
Well, we got some. Wait a minute, Ken. We got some background. Do you have a radio on or something because it's interfering?
Yeah, I got you on. I got you on.
Okay, cut that down then so that Mr. Fuller can hear your question.
Okay.
All right.
Is this better?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I'm just calling. I want to thank Mr. Fuller for everything that he's provided in his lifetime and the knowledge that we are able to take advantage of. And also, I just wanted to say, as a VGQ, is that you can always keep up with the white supremacists by looking up the words that are new and the way that, for example, cancel culture, the history and some of the background from the white supremacist perspective is to look on the Wikipedia and look those terms up, like cancel culture, and you'll find out the way that they're using that term. So I don't know if Mr. Fuller has ever done that, but there's an encyclopedia online. It's called Wikipedia, encyclopedia, and it's an open source type of platform, so you can always find what the meaning or what implications are from new terms that the white supremacists use.
Okay.
I just want to add that, okay?
All right. Well, thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. All right.
All right, I'm going to keep up with it. Thank you so much for your time and effort.
Okay, don't be a stranger. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, going out to Jay in the 682. That would be Fort Worth. Jay, you are now on with Mr. Fuller, and you can be heard. What is your question?
Good morning, fellas.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller, for taking this couple of hours out every Tuesday. And Mr. Fuller, I hear you all the time talk about the accountability that the black man should be taking. And sometimes when I listen to the show, I know you kind of get on us, get on our head a lot, because it's a certain amount of accountability as men that we should hold when we do things and how we go about doing things. And some of these groups that are put together seems like it's a free-for-all on the black man, but I've noticed a lot of things that the black man has done to change America. Like you, for example, wrote the code. We have a whole bunch of examples: Martin Luther King, Malcolm X's, Medgar Evers. I mean, the list goes on. I think a lot of people would say that America is the way it is today because of a lot of influences that the black man has provided to allow people to understand humanity. So my question for you was, Mr. Fuller, do you feel like as men, as black men, do we have, because even if you read the Bible, Jesus had an earthly father, and a lot of people like to talk about religion and stuff like that. So my question was, why does it seem to me that you go all in on the man so much? Is it because we have a big responsibility, or is it because we just are not doing what we're supposed to be doing?
Okay, Mr.
Fuller. The code doesn't allow me to criticize anything about black people. It's not a criticism. It may be looked at it that way. What it is, it's an observation. We don't have a code, and we need one. That's all I'm really saying, because we are seriously flawed. And then another thing I look at, I hear people say, well, you know, we need to be getting credit for something. Well, we can look at it that way, but then it comes down to what's the constructive result. See, it's always what's the constructive result. And I haven't seen any constructive results at all in anything that we have done. Compared to what? Compared to what needs to have been done. That is the criteria. See, so it's not personal at all. See, you know, it gets into that feeling thing. See, black people got a lot of feelings, and our feelings mess us up terribly. So we should tap into logic, because logic don't take no prisoners. Cause and effect. Fire will burn and water is wet. It doesn't make any difference how anybody feels about it. So it's just like they say in the mafioso, you know, hey, it's not personal. It's got nothing to do with feelings. It's got something to do about either it gets done or it doesn't. And so that's the kind of criteria that the code sets for black males, black females, for everybody on the planet. You either have justice or you don't. And all this parading around looking for who's going to get credit for what, that is useless if you don't have things called justice. So nobody gets credit for nothing. We're talking about a commodity here called justice that's never been achieved by anybody. until it is, no parades should be given. Nobody should have a ribbon pinned on their chest for anything. I don't care what they achieve. I don't care how long they've been working, how hard. I used to tell, and I give this story a lot on the air, about me telling that sergeant when I was in the Air Force, on what they call the Air Force, in Japan in the 1950s. I came into the supply shed telling that black sergeant, about how hard we had been working. And he said, Fuller, get out of here. I don't ever want you coming in here telling me about how hard you've been working. There's nothing unique about hard work. People are working hard all over the world. I can show you some hard work that you'll have a heart attack just watching these people work. Right here in Japan. I can show you some people who are hard working right here in Japan, right outside this window, that'll give you a heart attack if you were trying to work as hard as they're working, okay? So I don't want to hear anything about hard work. Hard work is nothing unique. And then he gave me the punchline. The only time I want to hear from you is when you show me the result. In other words, he was telling me in so many words, and down through the years I've used this as an analogy, I don't care about how pretty you look dribbling down the court with that basketball. If that ball don't go in the basket enough that you win the game, I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to hear your name mentioned. What you're trying to do don't count. Just get it done. Now, that's rough.
Yeah.
But we're in a rough game when you're talking about white supremacy. You don't get credit for trying. You only get credit when the light's out and the stadium is silent and you got the winning score. That's the kind of criteria we should set for ourselves. Every drill instructor knows this, who's in the Marines or the Rangers or the Airborne or the Commandos. Every teacher that teaches anybody anything should have that criteria. You're not going to get criticized for trying and failing. See what I mean? That's not a criticism. That's an observation. You tried, but you failed. All right? But everybody tries and fails. Even also the experts, always. The people that try to invent airplanes and all like that, they try and they fail. But you keep trying. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But don't look for no parade until it's finished. And that's what black people got to get out of the habit of. Man, we take 2 baby steps out of the crib, and we want to have a 40-year parade. And we do this kind of nonsense all over the world. And that is a serious flaw.
Mm-hmm.
That's
all
a
righty.
Serious flaw.
All righty, Jay, thank you for your call. Very much. Okay, Mr. Fuller, let's go to the 757, and thank you for responding. That will be Glenda. Let me see if I can get you in, Glenda. Yeah, we got you in. Go ahead. Good morning. You can be heard.
Good morning, Mr. Fuller. You just said that black males are unable to take care of children. Can you explain why white supremacists allow black women to support and care for children financially? I'm referring to black women with the means and income to do so, not referring to black women who receive direct financial assistance from the government.
Black females are easier to handle than black males. That's why it's mostly black males that get shot on the highway. All right? Every now and then they'll shoot a black female if they have to, but mostly they just tease black females because they're females. And the white supremacists say, hey, we go to the line of least resistance. But the black male needs to be watched all the time because he's struggling to be a man. And he's not going to ever be a man in the system of white supremacy. And it's my job as a white supremacist to see to it that he doesn't become one by taking care of himself first and then being able to take care of a black female. So what I'll do, I'll take that black female and have her play the part of both the male and the female, which I'm doing all over the world right now. That's what the white supremacists are doing. They're taking the black female and having her be the so-called man of the house and the woman of the house. She's got to be it all. And this is nothing new. They did that right up, that's a part of the white supremacist scenario. That's built in, okay? The black female is the person carrying the burden. I mean, Harriet Tubman, she's the one. You got to keep crossing rivers and whatnot. I mean, the black male, he's the one being led across the river by the black female, okay? Because, it's harder for him. It's harder for him. She can get the information easier. Why? Because she's up there in the big house. She gets information. So, the white supremacist system allows the black female to do a lot of things, but she doesn't get everything that she needs because she's still a slave. But she's an easier to deal with slave until she just gets too masculine, and then that's when he puts the rope around her neck. Because if you look at some old photographs, there's a lot of black females who were hanging from trees. And they were the ones who became a little bit too masculine and got in the master's face. And so then he had to treat her like he would treat somebody who's trying to be a man. All right? The black male knew better, so he just watched his fiancée swinging from that limb while he's still down there obeying. Because he knows better than to talk back. All right? She got sassy and talked back one more too often. But that's the system of white supremacy. That's what it does to people. So the white supremacists move us around like they want to. Right now, they're telling the black female, we want you to become strong, so strong that you can become soldiers. And we're going to put you in a uniform and boots and send you off and preserve our white males and let you die on these battlefronts and send a paycheck home to your black boyfriend who ain't eligible for the military on account of he ain't eligible for nothing. He got a police record a mile long. He's in jail already. I mean, and you sending a check to him to take care of them babies that he got before he went to jail, trying to take care of you by robbing and stealing from other black people in the hood. That's why he's locked up. And you're in the Army sending him a check. And you're going to die over there in your girlfriend's arms. Because now you're a lesbian. Because you got that way in the military. Okay? You ain't got no man, so you got to have the best substitute you can get. And that's a fellow female soldier. Oh, yeah. The white supremacists got it all figured out, folks. They got it all figured out.
All
you
right.
got to see it.
Glenda, thank you for your call, and do not be a stranger. Okay, Mr. Fuller, we got 5 minutes and 40 seconds. So let's talk about that book, which we've been talking about the entire program. But go ahead and get the specifics about your publication, name, and all the latest information.
Yes. Go to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. And the books that come up on the screen advertised, if you get them, they're supposed to help you to be able to think, speak, and act as an individual person to replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice, and go beyond that and begin to become a universal man or a universal woman, able to function anywhere in the universe with maximum constructive efficiency, ultimately, in all areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And the book is segmented into these 9 areas of activity. It tells you how to get there, gives suggestions. Not all the suggestions. You got to come up with some of your own. You got to suggest things to yourself and then try them out. But we're trying to build a code of behavior. That's what the books are supposed to be doing. That's what we need. A code for everything that we do and say. How we go about doing everything each and every day. Go to producejustice.com, and the textbook for victims of white supremacy is supposed to help you as a person of color do that each and every day. What to do, what not to do. What to say, what not to say. Because everything is doing and saying. What to do, what not to do. What to say, what not to say. In every circumstance that will work for you and not against you. That's what we call a code. Doing something that will always work for you and not against you.
Okay.
Go to producejustice.com, and the book is supposed to help you do these things.
All righty. Speaking about doing things like that, when is the next time that you will be on the Carl Nelson Show on WOL? What is it, 1450 on the AM dial?
Yes.
In Washington?
I haven't been given any information on when I will be on, but most likely will be next month.
Okay.
Usually I come on once a month on WOL 1450 AM, and I come on in the evening most of the time from 5 until 7 Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
Eastern Standard Time, the Carl Nelson Show.
Okay.
And they usually let me know maybe 2 or 3 days ahead of time.
Okay,
sometimes
good.
just hours ahead of time, depending on what the circumstances are. Right.
When they do, let you know if they do it 2 or 3 days before. Let me know so that even if we have done the show, I could also inform people that you will be on the Carl Nelson Show, and they love it. I even listen to it. I love it. I even listen to it. Okay, Mr. Fuller, we have 1 minute and 30 seconds, and we started out today talking about the 4 wants. So could you conclude any concluding remarks on the 4 wants before we leave today?
Okay, the 4 wants, you can ask yourself these questions first. But then you can ask other people all day long. It's the best way to interact with people. That's white people or non-white people. People have wants. So you ask these 4 questions. They're on page 171 and 172 of the code book. And they start with what? Talking about yourself. But I'm going to address it in such a way that you're talking to someone else. If you're talking to a white person, for example, ask the person, a person that you work with, what do you want most? What is it you want to do? Because it's usually something a person wants to do. That's the first question. Second question, why do you want to do what you want to do? Third question, how do you plan to do what you want to do? Fourth question, what do you think will be the constructive result if you do what you have planned to do? of all the things you wanted to do. Right. What do you expect the constructive result to be? And you always ask yourself those 4 questions before you do anything.
Okay.
But that bottom line is, what do you expect the constructive result to be?
Okay. All righty. Thank you, Mr. Fuller, because we're at 0 time now. But thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, callers. We'll try to do better next week, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone.
Try to do better.
All righty.